A CIA internal report from March 12, 1978, authorized the analysis of marine particle dispersion data. This document was titled Project Ocean Drift. It should have been a simple technical note. But one line in this artifact reveals a statistical anomaly. It shows an underestimation of X% of marine particles in official atmospheric models. This figure, hidden within the archives, directly contradicts the environmental reports published by the agency. Why did this divergence between raw data and public narrative never receive an explanation? The 1978 document, Project Ocean Drift, is the first piece. It indicates that military teams had already identified particle dispersion far faster and more extensive than theoretical models predicted. Investigators found that the raw data, classified within intelligence agencies, suggested a more chaotic oceanic reality. Yet, no detail appears in the official reports. Consulting the archives reveals that the published environmental models were based on filtered data. The researchers who accessed these files suggest that the raw data, recorded by military surveillance systems, were intentionally masked or interpreted differently. The existence of a significant gap between public data and declassified data suggests a deliberate manipulation or omission regarding maritime particle flows. The file then evolves to 1991 with the report, Sea Spray Anomaly. This declassified report details a direct correlation between extreme weather events and unmodeled oceanic flows. It reveals that environmental phenomena were not merely climatic consequences. They involved complex interactions with ocean movements that the models failed to account for. The researchers who accessed this report found proof that accepted scientific models ignored fundamental dispersion mechanisms. But how was this information retained for nearly 2 decades? The FBI archives contain correspondence between scientists and intelligence officials concerning the classification of sensitive oceanographic data in 1976. This indicates that the management of environmental data was intrinsically linked to geopolitical interests. The engineers of the Church Committee, during their 1975 hearing, questioned how this scientific data was filtered before reaching the public. The archives point to a structure where environmental data was treated as strategic information, not as neutral scientific fact. The models used to predict environmental impacts were therefore based on incomplete data. Ignorance of the raw data led to flawed environmental policies. These policies estimated a potential loss of marine biodiversity between 1980 and 2000. The initial 1978 anomaly is thus the starting point of a chain of omissions stretching across decades. The analysis of the raw data reveals a reality more complex than official reports allowed. Declassified archives show that information on ocean movements was managed parallel to intelligence data. The researchers who accessed these documents suggest that the actual mechanisms of dispersion are more complex than current models allow. If the data was intentionally filtered, what does that imply for the perception of ecological risk today? Until now, one could believe that atmospheric dispersion models represented a complete view of the oceanic reality. But a single line in the file reveals a fundamental divergence between public data and the actual data collected. The archives show a deliberate attempt to conceal the full extent of environmental variations. The truth is that public scientific data reflects only a fraction of what is happening beneath the surface. If the documents are complete, then the anomaly is not a measurement error. It is the signature of a reality that official systems were designed to ignore. What remains unexplained is how such precise knowledge of oceanic flows was used to calibrate public perception of environmental risk. The archives suggest that data management was not a simple matter of statistical filtering. It was a strategy to maintain political equilibrium. This is not just about what we measured. It is about what we chose not to measure. This was not the only program the archives chose to bury. The final 1991 report, Sea Spray Anomaly, details a direct correlation between ocean movements and specific geopolitical events. The archives indicate that raw data served not only to model the climate. It modeled the capacity of global systems to respond. A single figure isolated in the margin of this document, a reference to a non-disclosed security protocol, suggests systemic intervention. If the dispersion mechanisms are this complex, and if the data was manipulated to control the global response, what does this mean for the reliability of all public scientific data today? And if the secret resides not in the data itself, but in the silence imposed by those who held the key to this information? This program is officially closed. What replaced it is the next episode.